All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
Yeah, it isn't. Tony, how do you? Good morning, everybody. I'm so. This has been, and this is what I absolutely loathe about this new form. I mean, we're working so hard behind the scenes. You have no conception of this. So I don't mean to complain at all. I'm simply saying we weren't quite ready for prime time today because of a internet outage. So where I am, there's no internet. So I'm toggling off of my phone. So welcome, everybody. But
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. But you're saying, Tony, nothing will play off the computer is what you were telling me before, right? So that's why it won't play for the...
No, nothing will play on the laptop because your laptop is what you're running off of right now.
All right, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. I mean, you could just play the speakers really loud and your microphone will pick it up.
All right, Tony, please.
It's a good thing we have John Daly. I'll tell you.
How are you?
Yeah,
everything's on fire.
Daily.
MacGyver.
Good morning.
Do you have any bubble gum? Maybe a paper clip?
All the music beds pretty
It's
much
like real
will
radio.
not exist today. Oh my God. I just can't I can't outsmart the badness. This is a weird coincidence too. Twitter went down for me too. I don't have my Twitter account anymore all of a sudden. So it's just the world imploding.
Oh, it's all that bad mouthing of Elon Musk. He got you.
Maybe that's it.
That might be a feature.
Where are you going? How you doing?
You don't think it's a bug? You think it's a
No,
feature?
it's a feature.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you we've got a really cool. I could have just
feel
scrubbed the show. Hold on one second.
I feel like he's Mr. Rogers. He's got to put on his jacket.
Yeah, you got to change your shoes too.
Button up the cardigan.
You gotta need the shoes.
Yeah, you got to do the shoes.
He needs to sing while he's doing the outfit change, I think.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers, you got to change your shoes too.
Yeah.
This is an outrage. It really is an outrage.
I mean, God forbid we try to do the show without the jacket. I don't know. What would happen.
It's chilly in here.
Oh, okay. Well, pumpkin. Alrighty.
Because the heat has also been turned off.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Really?
What the hell is going on?
Are we not paying
they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Really, they don't.
And I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
What was that, Kim?
Are we not paying the heating bill now? Is that what happened?
No,
Kim, how are you?
No, it's just not on. I mean, we don't have the heat on right now. So it's so.
What does Ron think about this?
Yeah, Ron would like to know, as usual, what the hell's going on.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
I will tell you that one thing that's going on in the United States of America is a runoff, and today is election day in Georgia. We'll touch on that. There are a bunch of ways in which voters in Georgia have been dealing with voter suppression, in my judgment. They've reduced the number of they've reduced your ability to vote by mail. They've reduced the boxes, if you want to think of it that way, that you can place your ballot. They don't want you to be able to take other people's ballots to those boxes. And they have rejected hundreds of thousands of ballots. So even as there is this celebration of early voting, of which there's been this record amount in Georgia, there are ways in which the vote has been suppressed. So we'll touch on that perhaps a little bit later. I do want to tell you it's a really cool show today. And so these frustrations that we've had, I think right now you don't notice them because everything on your end as a viewer and a listener should be pretty cool. As I mentioned, the fact that I can't play stuff from my computer, so we'll be missing a little bit of the music beds and stuff like that. But otherwise, stuff's going to go down without too much trouble. But on this side, I want to tell you that as we scrambled to make this way, I did it in part because I just didn't want to miss this show. This is a really good show, this episode. I'll just give you the return of David Cay Johnston. To me, is that in itself, it makes it so watchable. David of course, Pulitzer Prize winner, a Trumpologist, but more to the point, he's done a 3-part series, more to the point of his visit today, on American workers and American citizens and taxpayers, how much we make relative to executive pay. All of us, not just, the working class, but all of us. And of course, that gap has never been wider, but it's never in media been documented as thoroughly and completely as David Cay Johnston has documented it for 25 years. He's done this. And again, the media, mainstream media, orphans this story. David actually goes through it and looks at real wages for real people, not just low end, not just working class, not just blue collar jobs, not just white collar jobs, but across the spectrum. It's a remarkable piece of journalism. And he does it at dcreport.org. It's a 3-part series. David will join us in the second hour. The other David who joins us is David Katz. And David Katz joins us to talk about, in part, the referral of the January 6th committee to the Justice Department of criminal charges. So this is a breaking news story that David can comment on as a former assistant U.S. attorney. So that will be happening in the second hour as well. This hour, my mom and dad join us.
Wow.
Very, very cool. So that's in a piece that we, too, because of all the stuff and all the moving parts in the show,
why is it that your parents never have any technical problems as opposed to your son?
Technical problems than we do.
Yeah.
But mom and dad will join us. We're going to run that in the next half hour, I think is the plan, right? Isn't that it, John?
Yeah, correct.
All right. John's here, Kim's here, Tony's here, and you are all here. Smash that like button like a boss. I know it's with your iron If rod. You knew the kind of trouble that we go to bring you the show every day, I think you'd really appreciate it. But it really is. It's our pleasure. And I also would say, we feel, I can speak for myself, challenged to bring you the show because of what happened with KGO, and I wanted to immediately keep it going. And so that's why we're here. And so that's why the KGO in Exile t-shirt is so popular. You guys have been great about getting the KGO in Exile t-shirt and then taking pictures of yourself with either that or other merch. So that's a real fun thing.
Who else is keeping the show going?
What is that?
You know who else is keeping the show going? Our favorite Steve Moskowitz.
Steve Moskowitz is the very best. There would be no show without Steve Moskowitz. So you can reach Steve. In fact, I'll tell you a story next hour about our dear friends above the bar. They've just contacted Steve Moskowitz. This is a classic example of hearing about Steve Moskowitz, running a small business, and then reaching out to him. He will help you. So Steve is 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, regardless. You may not have paid your taxes. You may be ashamed of some deduction you took that you shouldn't have taken. Don't worry. Steve's heard it all, seen it all, okay? There's no shame allowed with Moskowitz. He's there for you to utilize, and let him be your advocate. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, MoskowitzLLP.com. And so now I will jump into things. Do I have business from yesterday, John? I thought we did. At the end of yesterday's show, I have a note here. Is this right?
Yeah, this was a contribution that came in right under the wire.
Oh.
At the end of yesterday's show, would you say this is a major announcement?
Oh, yeah.
I can't do a major announcement.
I can't do
a Mark Thompson show, major announcement.
I can't do it because everything's not working today.
It's okay. We got it. We got it for you. It's all right.
Oh, you do? Yeah, you actually.
Why are you yelling?
All right. So the major announcement is that Mark Tenboer, right at the end of yesterday's show, and it's not easy. Right now, you can't contribute through YouTube. This is the other thing we're dealing with. Just go to themarkthompsonshow.com and leave us a PayPal contribution. That would be a great way to support the show. So I had mentioned this a couple times yesterday, but it's a little more trouble. One of the great things about YouTube, I get it. They take a piece, but they do make it easier for you to make a contribution with super stickers and super chats. So we're dealing with all of that headache with YouTube. It might take a little while to get it ironed out, but it'll be fine. And For the moment, you have to go this extra step, themarkthompsonshow.com. Then you click on PayPal and you make the contribution. You can do it with a credit card or whatever. If you have a PayPal account, no big deal. So, but it's extra to do it. You have to go through a couple of clicks. Right at the end of the show yesterday, this donation came in. Mark Tenboer, $100 to the show. Now, come on.
Wow.
Kim, on your feet with a salute. And I'm just saying big shout out.
Big shout out.
First of all, but also $100 is real. It may.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
I know, but I'm close.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
It is cry worthy, if I can say.
We might
that.
as well acknowledge
Cry-worthy.
2 other contributions came in. You'll see I added there.
Dave King, $100. Come on.
I'm not going to cry.
Dave, that is extra. Dave, you really are the king, aren't you?
Big shout out.
Big shout out. And I'm going to give you
Thank you so much.
a British thank you so much. And Mark, for your contribution yesterday, I'm going to give you a thank you
very much.
That's a Will Smith thank you. And both of you. And Steve Shaw, can I add Steve Shaw?
Yeah.
Steve Shaw for $25, a recurring donation. Thank you, Steve. And I'm going to give all of you now, Steve, Dave, and Mark, all 3. Thank you.
Did we leave him? I think
Did
we
we
lost
lose
him.
him?
I was,
I
yeah,
think you
he's
have a
frozen
hiccup.
in time. Look at him. He looks cute, though, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's right.
A
It's
little-
a sensible moment.
A little devious, though, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Like
it is a
he's
little devious.
Up to no good.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's frozen and has to
Yeah.
back out and come back in, or what the
Yeah, I think
story
he'll
is
figure
with
it
that.
out. I think he'll figure it out.
It'll do it on its own whenever his internet
But
catches
those
up.
contributions came in through PayPal, so that's the only way to
Oh.
contribute right now. So if you go to
So that was nice.
themarkthompsonshow.com, you can make a one-time contribution. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe it's a very good time to take a listen to the conversation we had yesterday with Mark's parents, because it's pretty funny and they're really cute.
Yeah, I have
And
it ready.
So, oh, you have it ready? Okay,
Yeah,
so
I have it
let's
ready.
do that.
Okay.
This is Mark and his parents and us.
Mom and Dad, everybody. I know. It's pretty exciting to have Mom and Dad on from Washington, D.C., where the weather is what?
Cold.
Cold?
Very
Yeah.
cold.
Kim.
Very cold. There's no snow. It's in the
Yeah,
40s.
our cold, Kim and John,
Yeah.
our cold is not the same as their cold, I think. That's
No.
real legit cold they have.
It was
But
like
it's not.
in the upper 40s, low 50s last night, and I thought that I'm cold, but that's
Yeah.
not what you guys got going on.
No, that's
Well, and I'm spoiled here in the city. I can't even deal with North Bay cold. It's a little warmer in the city.
Well, you guys, it's around 50, right? It's right now in
no. It's around 40.
It's a little bit
around 40.
below.
Because it's 7 o'clock, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's
We're taping this, so we're actually doing this at 7:00. The reason we're taping it is because Kim's piano lesson, isn't that? That isn't really the reason.
No,
Kim's child had a piano lesson, though, isn't that
that's
right?
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the big news.
But you know what's really good on the Mark Thompson Show News Network is that the boss is very flexible and he's a friend to working mothers. So we're
there
very
you
proud
go.
of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. You can hold your applause. Oh, thank you. All right. Well, don't hold your applause then. But I did take piano lessons, but I didn't. I'm really disappointed. I have so many disappointments in my life, and I just didn't practice enough. And you guys really were after me to practice. It is practice for some reason. Why is that?
I don't
thought
blame
you
you.
had. I thought it was Wendy with the piano lessons, and I thought you had something with the clarinet. Or my
No, I'll tell you what I had, and this is awful. Again, I had piano lessons. I was started with piano lessons, and then because I was rebelling or wanting to assert myself or whatever, I took trombone. Remember, I took trombone in elementary school.
The sliding trombone.
I liked the fact that I had my own, case and the trombone there, and it had a spit valve, and it had it was really kind of a cool thing when you're a little boy to have this big thing where you're doing that and you're gonna
looking like a real winner in 5th grade, huh?
So you were hamming it up.
I was, but it was not. I don't know. I think I was struggling. I just don't think I was happy, and I don't know.
No. You were terrific. It's just that the sliding trombone is difficult for when you're 8 years old.
Yeah.
Because to slide the thing, your arm's not long enough. So you
I
took
see.
on an enormous challenge. This is just to put a positive spin on an absolute nightmare. But okay. You really did it.
I don't think it had anything to do with my arm length. Honestly, I think it was really that I was angry. I don't know. I just think I was competing with my sister, who was really good with piano, and so I decided to take up trombone. I think a lot of it came from that sibling rivalry.
Okay, now
you can work this out in therapy.
I'm so glad you analyzed that.
No.
I think Eric was working with the drum at that time.
Did Eric have drums?
Yes, but
there are 4 kids in the family, everybody. So yeah, you've got a
full band.
But I mean, yeah, it's a.
Listen, I had always wanted to play the piano, and my family couldn't afford a piano. So my father had a violin. You know, he played the violin.
Right.
Well, my hand is this big, and his hand was a lot bigger. But God forbid they should try to spend any money to get a violin for me. I had to use that and squeak away until finally it became so unbearable.
No, but that was it is true that her family was the cheapest crowd you ever heard.
Well, they to be fair to her, they didn't have any money. I mean, it was a depression. It was a depression shadow that was extended over the whole family.
I don't know about that.
So since there was a violin, they didn't understand that, you know, it comes in different sizes. And so therefore my amazing career as a violinist never took off.
No.
That is too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a frustrated musician. I think.
But we went up to the house there where they were selling different things. You remember? And the
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they didn't have the banjo, so they gave me the
oh no, our grandson who was on the autistic spectrum really wanted to play first the viola. That didn't work. Then the guitar, that couldn't work because autistic kids he had some challenges. So my Arnie took him to the House of Musical Tradition in Maryland. And the guy said, you know, an Appalachian dulcimer just came in.
Oh.
Thanks to Daddy, because I was not going to spend another penny on another.
So this was the dulcimer, and it's actually
fantastic.
Remarkably, he liked it.
He loves it.
And how many people play that musical instrument, right?
I don't know how well it plays, but he did it for 3 years.
Well, people like it. In fact, now he's 20-something or
24.
At 28. He's old now. And he plays in bars in Long Island.
Wow.
Yeah, we went up to listen to him, and it's not exactly our type of.
Yeah, we're not used to.
Well, you don't like hanging out in bars. It's your problem. You've never been bar people.
The bar crowd.
Music that's been.
Yeah, that people are liking now.
That's right. I think that's a big factor.
Yeah,
I see. So just the genre that you don't like. Dad, people are asking if you would lean in a little bit toward Mom because you're there. There you go. That's perfect. That's good.
People are asking that because
Yeah.
I have been screaming at him and been criticized for screaming.
Well, I don't think there's any need for criticism, but I was just saying that's helpful. So
there's always need for criticism.
There always is a need for criticism. It's a very critical family, John and Kim. It's a very but usually this is the way the criticism goes down. It would be like let's say it was about my show. Okay, all right. So it would go, Well, we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. Don't know why you had that one guest on. I don't know if that was, but we really liked it. We really liked it. It was like they'll slide the criticism in around, some general positive comments. I found that was
sandwich. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that the criticism stops at the gates of the Mark Thompson show.
Eric was brought in a particular school, and he was there.
It's my brother. Yeah.
Right. It really was something that seemed to go very, very well. He was actually president of the class. The class was only 10 people, but he wasn't the top student. He was, I think, 6th or 7th. And then, when we went up to see his graduation, we asked them whether they would take another.
All mixed up.
Whether they would take another child who needed help.
No, who was autistic.
Autistic, and they said they had spent the entire day, the day before the graduation, seeing whether they should do that or not, and finally they said they would, which was a tremendous accomplishment. It means that Eric didn't screw it up for everybody else.
It wasn't Eric. It was Taylor.
Oh, it was Taylor. I'm sorry, Taylor.
Wow.
It was Tyler. I'm sorry, it was Tyler. That's all right.
All right.
No.
I'm noticing this amazing blue dish above your head.
What?
Oh yeah, the dish behind you. It's a large plate.
Hey, I'm so
platter.
glad you noticed that.
We bought that in Turkey.
Oh.
House in Turkey. And let me tell you, the mere fact that it's in one piece is a miracle. Other people sent those home. You got to send it by a special wrapping and a special blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people have half a plate. They broke in half.
Yeah. It looks like it's special. It is definitely in the place of honor.
There. Wendy said she wants them, and we.
Well,
when
everybody is since we're so old, everybody is trying to put dibs on when we die.
The competition is
nice.
back.
My grandmother had.
I'm coming back with some Post-its. I'll just put them on the things that I want to take.
My grandma had Post-its on the back of stuff.
Yeah.
She did. Yeah.
Anyhow, I chose that dish to match some drapes that I have, which I no longer have. But we love the plates.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's another one on the other side.
There are matching plates.
Cool.
They don't match.
Well, I'm going to be back there next week, actually.
So grab the plate.
Just for a couple of days. So I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that plate into custody.
Bring your sticky notes.
Bring your Post-its with you.
And you can report on what it looks like. Yeah.
Do you still have a bedroom in the house, Mark? Or is that like
we all share now when we come back and visit it's really my sister's bedroom.
The bedroom thing.
Yeah.
We have 4 kids in the house, and when Mark went off to college.
4 kids, and how many bathrooms are all the kids sharing?
2. Oh, there's just 2 bad.
Where was the second one? I only had access to the one.
Well, you monopolized the good one.
Oh, is that right? Was it me? Where you sleep, that bedroom has a bathroom, and then the kids, we all shared one bathroom. Isn't that right?
That's right. That's
okay,
only
just checking.
Could be. Listen, you're lucky it wasn't an outhouse.
Yes, you're right.
I didn't mean to appear. The obsession over the number of bathrooms.
We have an obsession over bathrooms and how many there are when we talk about homes.
And now we know why.
Yeah, it's a backstory.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't mean to seem ungrateful. I was very happy to have that one bathroom. And so I'll stay in my sister's room, though, Kim, and answer your question, because now it's become a generic room in there, but it's nice. So
it's a guest room. It's not a generic room. It's
okay. It's a guest room.
I feel like your dad needs the Mark Thompson Show winter beanie.
Yeah, the new beanies are out, Dad. Maybe I will bring you a winter beanie, and you can model it for the show. You can see them here behind me. You may not be able to see them quite well right now, but
yeah, that'd be great for Daddy.
Would you like one with a pom-pom, Dad, or would you like I don't see you as a pom. I don't know, though. You can rock the pom-pom.
Can you hold it up to the camera so we can see the detail?
Pom-pom.
Well, I want the pom-pom.
Oh, cute.
You want the pom-pom?
Yeah, that's going to be
cute. Yeah,
cute.
that's perfect.
Oh, here we go.
Perfect.
Well, bring it in, and
bring one of each.
Hey, do you want that plate or not, Mark?
You can order it from the website like everybody else, trying to keep the lights on over here. All right, so next week I'll be in.
I didn't know you're selling them. I thought you're giving them away.
Oh, no, I mean, this is a fine product. I can't be giving this stuff away. There's craftsmanship that goes into it. Mom,
well,
please.
I know because I nicked them for the homeless.
That is true. Mom is very active with the homeless, and she does a lot of work with them financially, and also she does work beyond that, and more than just the money. So, Mom, I'm and Dad, I'll be back next week. I'm looking forward to that, and we might even do something with the audience in the show next week from your place.
That will be very nice.
Looking forward to your visit.
Thank you. Me too. Kim and John, I'm going to excuse the witnesses if you're done. Are we?
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes.
So good to see you guys. Happy
holidays.
It's good to have you all. Good to see
Bye,
you.
Mom and Dad.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, she's got such a great
Bye.
smile. Look at
Bye.
her.
Bye, Kim.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, that was fun. And it also bought us enough time to have Tony talk me into landing the plane back here. We got our internet back. So very, very cool. I love how people are saying, Mark, if you could just buy the uncapped cellular data plan, you'd likely not have these issues. Guys, I've got the best plans, all right? It's not a question of the plans. It's a question
Why are you yelling?
The internet went down, so, we had to scramble. And then we were working off the uncapped cellular plan. Thank you. Tony, do you have, it was a simple issue with the internet.
It wasn't the computer. It wasn't gear.
No,
so,
your
I'll
work
take that
continues. Yeah, your work continues to be beyond reproach. So
thanks, Tony.
Yeah, beyond reproach is a ding word, probably. All right, we've got much to do. So we'll reorganize. We're going to we'll check in with Moskowitz. But I mentioned the second hour, the two Davids, the twin tower of David, David Cay Johnston and David Katz. Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner. Katz, the award-winning attorney, assistant U.S. District Attorney. Amazing work.
That's double the David.
That's double the Davids for, that should get something. All right, there you go. So all of that to continue. Kim's news, she continues undaunted. Smash that like button like a boss. It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. The January 6th committee plans to make criminal referrals following their investigation into last year's attack on the Capitol. That's according to Chairman Benny Thompson, the Democrat, not revealing who may be referred for charges, but said there's a discussion being had about those who allegedly lied during the investigation. We may not know tonight who wins the Senate runoff election in Georgia. That, according to election official Gabriel Sterling, who spoke to CNN, more than 1.8 million voters have so far cast a ballot. More are voting today, of course. Sterling said it's up to the voters. He says they are showing up in droves. Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock is looking to keep his seat as he faces a challenge from Republican Herschel Walker. The leader of J.P. Morgan Chase worried about the economy. Jamie Dimon telling CNBC inflation could bring about a recession. He said consumers have $1.5 trillion in excess savings thanks to things like stimulus checks, but he predicts that money will dry up by the middle of next year. President Biden is not visiting the border during his trip to Arizona today. While he's in Phoenix, he'll be visiting a construction site and plans to deliver remarks on the economy. There's a final vote expected today on whether police should be able to use robots to kill people in San Francisco. Several groups demanding election officials refused to allow the robots to use deadly force during a town hall meeting yesterday. If the policy is approved, Mayor London Breed would have the final say. Elon Musk's brain implant company Neuralink, it's under federal investigation over its treatment of animal test subjects. The company hopes to eventually use implants to help the paralyzed walk, the blind to see, and to address a number of other brain issues. But now, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has the company under the microscope after reports that some 1,500 monkeys, sheep, and pigs have been killed, many in botched experiments.
It's a horror show. I'm glad you mentioned it. I had planned to talk about it today anyway. It is an outrage. It is an obscene, grotesque science experiment that Elon Musk is doing with live animals, oftentimes without anesthesia of any kind, because they're trying to do with these animals what they want to be able to do with human beings, in the sense that they, with minimal anesthesia, are able to affect positive changes in the brain. But that is, it's a ridiculous science experiment. I mean, it's just so far away from anything that is even conceivable. And number two, the amount of pain and torture that they're inflicting on these creatures is unspeakably awful. I don't mean to be too agitated about it, but I'm glad you mentioned the story. And Elon Musk is... he's an outlaw, and it's a crime against humanity what he's doing with this Neuralink. It is an absolute crime against humanity.
Just to further get your
apart
opinion
from
on
that,
this, I look at, things like diabetes, and we wouldn't have insulin but for, the experimentation on animals to get to that medical place where we can help people. If he could truly help the blind see and the paralyzed walk once more, I don't know.
If he could truly make the blind see, make the paralyzed walk once more, eliminate cancer, eliminate hunger, then would you take the torture then of 1,500 creatures, Mark, of 15,000 creatures? I'll take a meeting on it, but he can't. It is absolute lunacy. That's the BS argument that is always used to torture these animals that are raised in labs, treated horribly, and then live these miserable lives with stuff injected into them. They open their skulls without an anesthesia.
Oh, God.
And and these are cats and dogs and chimps. It's outrageous. And that argument that somehow, wouldn't it be great, though, if you could cure diabetes and make people walk again? Yeah, it would be.
Why are you yelling?
Because this is the fake argument used to justify it's money. It's torture and money. Yeah. That's the reason lab experiments on animals exist to begin with. It's a huge industry. Do you know that the testing on animals, and then I will move on, and I'm sorry to be so agitated, but this is a fraud is what this guy's perpetrating on these innocent creatures. And it's a grotesque, horrible, obscene fraud. So I don't mean to bum everybody out, but I want to make one point, and then I'll close it out. Do you know that animal testing is not even admitted as one of the means of approval when it comes time to get various medications approved by the FDA? So in other words, the fact that it was successful in animal studies, it isn't anything that is viewed as credible in terms of its safety or efficacy when it comes to helping humans. So, well then why do we try it on these creatures at all? Because of money. Yeah. It is a huge, huge industry, this world of animal testing and supplying animals to these labs. It is it's a dark, dark business, and it exists in America and across the world. But you know what? It exists in America in a much bigger way than it does elsewhere. We are much worse about it here than they are elsewhere. So I'm sorry. Animals don't belong in labs, full stop, period. So.
And that, my friends, is how you piss off a talk show host. Actress Mindy Kaling says The Office couldn't be made today because
It sure couldn't. And let me tell you something about The Office. They could try to make it and forget it. I mean, the people who were involved in The Office, it was more than just a script. The people involved, they...
Why are you yelling?
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
She says no because it's too inappropriate. She was talking to Good Morning America, and Kaling said, tastes have changed. What offends people has changed so much. And she says it's probably why the show's so popular, because viewers feel like there's just something very fearless about it. This report, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. So if you need help with your taxes, Steve's waiting. You can call him at 888-TAX-DEAL or find him on the internet at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now... he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod. Who's Mark Thompson?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Yes. Great to have you here on this Tuesday. Tuesday brings David Cay Johnston to the show, Pulitzer Prize winner next hour. Also David Katz. Excuse me. David Katz. I was yelling about that animal testing. Took a lot out of me.
Speaking of cats.
But yes, there you go. David Katz will be here next hour because there have been criminal referrals now out of the J6 committee. So we'll get to those as well. All of that in the second hour. Right now, I want to check in with a guy who makes the world go round for us. He is our elite and exclusive sponsor.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
I know. Well, that's why I was giving him the introduction that he so richly deserves. He is Steve Moskowitz, everybody. We were talking about you in the last half hour, Steve. And the fact that I believe one of our, excuse me.
You're getting emotional.
I'm choking up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry, but I am going to say that one of our regular viewers and listeners, they run a bar in San Francisco, and they live above that bar, by the way, which I think is sort of like sitcom-y. I mean, it feels very sitcom that you'd live above, and they said there it is, the Red Jack Saloon in San Francisco. They just sent me an email yesterday saying that they are going to contact you, or maybe they have already contacted you, and they're excited to speak with you. And it struck me as the perfect profile of someone, a small business owner, who might be able to be helped by Steve Moskowitz.
Absolutely. And when they call, I'll be delighted to talk to them. And, small business is the backbone of America. It's not the giant corporations that keep most people employed. It's the small business. And that's why the federal government started these programs like PPP and ERC and RRF and these other things, because they finally realized this is the most important part of American business. And as you know, that's why I became a tax attorney, because when I went to law school as a student many years ago, I already had a bachelor's and master's degree in accounting. I was already a CPA, practicing CPA, doing taxes. But I worked for a giant firm whose clients were the Fortune 500. And I saw these giant companies making all this money and legally not paying taxes. I said, what's the secret? That's why I went to law school, to learn the secret. And that's what I want to do for small business. Say, hey, you know what? That bar that you just showed, I bet they pay more taxes than Apple Computer. But I also guess they make less money than Apple Computer. And that's my point. Some of the things that the big boys can do, the regular boys can do. And that's one of the things I bring to them, all kinds of tax planning and everything else.
Well, I think also, you talk about ERC, bar owners certainly were affected by COVID, and there's government money available. Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of when I saw them too. We've spoken of it so many times, but, I know that even if it weren't for ERC, there are so many other ways you can help small business people and sole proprietors and just individuals who are filing taxes. So do contact Steve. It's 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. We've talked before. Yesterday, I think we were talking about the fact that he's just an across-the-fence kind of guy. You can tell him anything. You shouldn't feel intimidated. There is no shame. Everybody on taxes has either been confused or maybe taken a deduction they shouldn't have or whatever it might have been. And Steve he's heard it all, seen it all, and he can help you. So 888-TAX-DEAL. Also, reach him on the web, MoskowitzLLP.com. Moskowitz, MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve, thank you so much, and thanks for being such an important part of our show.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, Steve Moskowitz, everybody. I like it, I like it, I like it.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And I also want to know where that water is that I was supposed to get.
And I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
Oh, my gosh. It's one of those days, huh? Thank you, everybody who has joined us in the chat. I say it's one of those days because we've had this weird thing, lost internet at the beginning of the show and all this kind of thing. All right. We're still dealing with a YouTube hiccup and hoping to get through it maybe even today. But we'll see.
But this might make you feel better. Russ Hills just contributed.
Wow. Is that right? Where is that information? Is that someplace
right
that
on your screen?
On my, is it? I don't know. Which screen is that, John? It's right there, Russ.
Right on the screen. The screen.
Hey, look at that.
The screen that everybody can see, Mark. That screen.
Why are you yelling?
Russ, $100 is such a big donation. Thank you very much.
Shout out.
A big Dan Ashley shout out. And
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
But I would cry. Thank you so much, Russ. For real. Really appreciate it, pal.
Thank you very much.
Give you the Will Smith shout out, and thank you. Ada Herrera, $56. Come on, Ada.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Ada. I love it.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not going to, but I am close. It's only the thin thread of professionalism that keeps me from crying.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
So I thank you very much, Ada.
It's for Mark's Meltdown Tuesday.
I am melting down today. I'm at to wit's end. Haven't had coffee. Have had nothing. Been dealing with technical problems. And now we were going to, I don't think we're going to do it now because I'm going to do some Law and Disorder here. And I've got some great stories in Law and Disorder. I really want you to know. I mean, they're not just like weird law stories. They're like big stuff happening. But when are we going to auction off the banner, John? Have you decided?
That's at your discretion.
We're going to do a turbo auction for the banner. That's the way we're going to do it. So it'll be a 10-minute auction. Maybe not even 10 minutes. Do you think 10 minutes, even 5 minutes, right?
Well, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes.
People have to find their keyboard, mouse.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so a 10-minute, but we'll give them warning. So will we do it tomorrow? Let's do it tomorrow then.
Let's do it
okay. So we're warning you now, or letting you know now, that we're auctioning off the Mark Thompson banner. The Mark Thompson Show banner, it was suggested, I thought, by Calvin Wong that I take the banner back to my parents. That's not a bad idea. I may enter the auction myself to try to do that.
I'm sure that's what they really want this time of year.
I detect a note of sarcasm in your voice. Yeah. Anyway, how about the fact that they want the beanies? They really do want the beanies.
And they're going to look so cute in those beanies. It's going to be darling.
Yeah, the beanies could really make their way to my mom and dad. So there's the pom-pom beanie and there's the regular beanie. If you wanted it, it's at getmarkmerch.com. What's that, Kim?
I just visualized the most adorable picture of them, each wearing a beanie, and that picture added to the Mark Thompson merchandising shelf behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's thank you. I will try to get that. Thank you for envisioning that. I think it could be fun to have them in the beanies. All right, without any further delay, thank you for being here. Thank you for smashing the like button like a boss. Let's do some Law and Disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Well, we're going to start in Indonesia. That's right. In Indonesia, there's a new law And it has to do with sex. In Indonesia, they are banning sex outside of marriage.
Seriously? What the?
Seriously? What the?
It is truly a seriously what the...
Seriously? What the?
It is for sure. They have decided that sex outside of marriage is not only immoral, but it should be illegal.
But that doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
It's not a good thing. It's a ridiculous thing, of course. But Indonesian lawmakers unanimously passing a sweeping new criminal code. This just happened this morning. It criminalizes sex outside of marriage as part of a bunch of changes that critics say threaten, of course, human rights and freedoms.
This is a word from Allah.
Yeah, this is the Lord. He's not happy, right?
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
What's the penalty if I maybe wanted to test the merchandise before I bought it?
The penalty is, let me look. What's in the criminal code? There are a bunch of them here.
This is really going to impact Bali.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because Bali is not a Islamic,
They tried to pass this a couple of years ago, and there were a ton of protests down there. That's the reason they did not pass it. And now they just got it through. Foreigners and tourists will be affected by this. The island of Bali. Look at this, John. Relying heavily on tourist revenue, still recovering from the pandemic. They are expected to take a hit from this. From our point of view as tourism industry players, this law will be very troublesome. Continuing with the quote, should we ask overseas unmarried couples if they're married or not? Do tourist couples have to prove they are married? It could be counterproductive. If these laws are really implemented, tourists might be subjected to jail, and this will harm tourism. They don't specify penalties beyond that, Kim.
Like stoning to death or...
Yeah, they don't. That would be...
They're still working that out.
A cane, whipping something.
Yeah, it is.
So much for
country.
eat, pray, love.
Yeah.
Or eat, pray, no touchy.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And what are they going to do? Put a camera in the hotel room? How are they going to know what I'm up to in there?
Maybe you should consult with them, Kim.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of questions, Kim. You might be, you might.
I mean, not that I'm planning on a visit anytime soon, but
just spitballing here.
Yeah. As long as we're overseas, I'm going to continue with one story, and then I'm going to come back here where there's kind of a big story. And that is on Iran, because John really knows the Iran political situation really well. You might have a thought on this. They say now that they are reviewing the mandatory headscarf law.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Well, I mean, as you know, the thing that has produced these protests and even, deaths.
300 to 500 dead, including children. But now they'll review the headscarf thing.
Yeah. Protests have swept Iran since September 16th. There was the death of that Mahsa Amini. She was 22 years old, and she was arrested by those morality police for not respecting the Sharia-based law on head covering for women. They are getting rid of the morality police, they say. And since that happened, they've burned their headscarves in huge demonstrations. As you're well aware, we've talked about through the country, they've protested in all these different ways. Well, now they're saying they're actually going to review this law. It became obligatory for all women in Iran to wear the hijab headscarf in April of 1983, 4 years after the Islamic Revolution that overthrew the U.S.-backed monarchy, the Shah. It's a highly sensitive issue. Conservatives say it should be compulsory. Reformists want to leave it up to individual choice. So, anyway, that's what's happening. They're reviewing that law. A man has been charged with shooting Lady Gaga's dog.
Good.
Yeah. The guy who was charged with it, because I thought we had the story about him being charged. He's now been sentenced. How many years did they give the guy who shot Lady Gaga's, the man involved in the shooting of Lady Gaga's dog walker during a robbery last year? The way I remember it is they They were, maybe they have a specific thing. That's what I'm looking. Because I was going to review it for you. Essentially, they grabbed the dogs, and in the scuffle, they shot this guy. That's what happened, I believe, right?
Yeah, the dog walker.
Yeah.
The dog walker. The man involved in the shooting of Lady Gaga's dog walker during a robbery last year sentenced to 21 years in prison yesterday. James Howard Jackson, 20 years old, pleaded no contest. 4 months after he was mistakenly freed from custody in August, he was captured and arrested in Palmdale.
The bumbling idiots, you know?
They really are. Jackson was charged in the February 24, 2021 shooting of dog walker Ryan Fisher. He was released from jail by mistake on April 6th due to what the sheriff's department has said was a clerical error. He was also charged with 1 count each of assault.
Clerical error? Is that how the jails work? Do they not have processes, protocols, and standards?
Yeah, right. That's definitely in the
seriously what
the category.
So I don't think the dog walker was killed, right? The dog walker was injured in the shooting. 21 years. That's for once. I'm okay.
Oh, you
with
think
that.
that's too? Oh, you are. I thought you were saying too harsh. Yeah.
No. I think that's good.
Yeah,
I usually think it's not harsh enough, but 21 years. Yeah. Okay.
I would turn Kim's level down just a little bit, but it's whatever.
Sorry.
But no, but you know, just in case she gets outraged and has to, you know.
I think Kim's moving to Indonesia pretty soon.
She wants to be. She wants a piece of that.
No way.
Sharia law.
Yeah.
Well, I'm already married, so it's not applicable to me. But
yeah, that's why you don't care about us.
I do care. I think everyone should try.
I got mine. Get your own.
I think everyone should have a little fun.
Well, the thing is, that Sharia law is really a lot of kicks. There's really nothing in there. You know, there's something in there for everybody. You know, and let me just remind you of something with the law, since we're doing law and disorder. Just because you're married, in the case of the Sharia law ruling, doesn't mean they won't accuse you of fooling around, falsely accuse you outside of the marriage. You understand that? Right. I mean, again,
like you mean if I was hooking up with somebody besides my husband?
They're going to say that you were, even if you weren't.
Oh.
I mean, you could be
in the Middle East.
Yeah, you could be in the market, and they could just arrest you, and they go, "Well, we can see that you're carrying on." And they go, "I don't even know that guy." Well, yeah, tell it to the judge. And by the way, the judge is, you know, mobbed up. I'm just saying. So careful, Kim. Careful. No one's safe with laws like that.
No.
Well, they're looking at you, Mark, and Courtney.
That's right. We are not married, and
you're going to hell.
We could be
seriously. What the?
We could be It could be a problem. Just saying.
You're headed straight to a Taiwanese jail.
That's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You see, Kirstie Alley died. That was sad.
Yeah, apparently
71 years old.
She got cancer, was diagnosed recently with cancer, and was too far along, I guess. She had a very, it was one of those where you find out you have cancer and you're dead a few months later. That type of thing.
Really, so talented, Cheers and a bunch of other, great projects as an actress. She's a big Scientologist. I think she moved down to Florida to be close to Scientology land there in Clearwater. But, and she was also, I believe, anti-vaxxer or whatever. I mean, I don't really hold that against people too much. It depends if they're jihadists, I don't really stomach it too well, but just feel bad that anybody 71, too young, right? So sad. So, I think, gifted, and there she is. She, I forgot she was in Look Who's Talking. That was a big movie for her. There's a big argument. I was on a thread yesterday over whether Cheers was funnier with her or without her.
I liked it better with her.
And that was the argument. Yeah. So,
what do you think?
It was an evolution on that show, I believe. Like it evolved beyond Sam and Diane. And
Was
so
Cheers
she was,
a TV show?
Is that
Oh
is
my
it, that's
God.
because we're too old? Is that what your point
Really?
is, John? Yeah, that's really not cool.
I haven't been too obnoxious this time. Yeah.
David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner in the next hour, along with David Katz in the last half hour. We'll talk about the J6 criminal referrals to the Justice Department. But David Cay Johnston just done this great breakdown I was telling you about at the beginning of the show on wages in America and just how much we all make relative to those who've made the most. I mean, when you break it down, it's pretty alarming. He did this 3-part series, and it's a really great piece of journalism. So David joins us next. Smash the like button like a boss. And after Kim's news, David will join Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Criminal referrals being made to the Justice Department in connection with last year's attack on the Capitol. That, according to the chairman of the January 6th committee, who spoke to reporters. Benny Thompson didn't reveal the specifics on who may be referred for those charges. New CDC data shows flu hospitalizations and deaths are on the rise. The health agency says U.S. hospitals are being stressed with the number of people with other respiratory illnesses like RSV and COVID. The recent spike likely fueled by Thanksgiving gatherings and travel. The shooter suspected of killing 5 people at a Colorado LGBTQ nightclub is being charged with 305 counts. The suspect accused of walking into Club Q in Colorado Springs November 19th with an AR-style weapon and opening fire. The charges include murder, attempted murder, assault, and bias-motivated crimes. Americans really feeling the impact of inflation. A new survey from Gallup found 55% of those asked say it has a severe or moderate impact on them. That's up from 45% who said the same thing in November of last year. And the big election underway in Georgia, and election officials telling CNN, we might not know who won the election, the Senate runoff election in Georgia tonight. That is because a lot of people are voting, coming out in droves to decide between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock or challenger Republican Herschel Walker. Travelers are now able to take the 3rd longest flight in the world. That is because there's now a direct flight from Dallas, Texas to the southern Australian city of Melbourne. Passengers are on the plane for nearly 18 hours. That is a heck of a long flight. I don't know how you do that without a little bed to lean back in and just kind of, relax.
Yeah, listen to you. Yeah.
I make you want to take the flight, right?
Yeah.
George Lopez, you remember him? And his daughter Mayan are set to announce this year's Golden Globe nominations. The 2 stars of the NBC comedy Lopez versus Lopez set to unveil the nominations on December 12th. A host for the awards ceremony has yet to be announced. The Golden Globes takes place January 10th. Does anyone pay attention to the Golden Globes? Do we care about that?
No, you have to be into awards. I've kind of evolved past it.
Are they the sexist ones?
Yeah, the Golden Globes are the ones run by the Hollywood Foreign Press. So it's like 33 white guys in France who decide everything, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think when you hear people introduced, they'll say Oscar winning actor, Emmy winning, Grammy winning. I never hear Golden Globe winning actor.
They used to brag about it. Yeah, Golden Globe nominated, Golden Globe, nominated for 15.
Oh, there were no
Globes.
black voters. That was the controversy, right?
Yeah.
No, that was the controversy to Oscars. Remember, Oscars so black, Oscars so white.
I thought Golden Globes had that too.
Well, Golden Globes is clearly, it's, as I say, it's literally less than 100 white people in Europe who are, wined and dined, and, people buy awards that way. But the reason the Golden Globes, then we got to David Cay Johnston waiting, but the reason the Golden Globes achieved real popularity was not so much for the importance of the award, but for the event, because they drink at the event. And typically you got a far more a looser crowd, and you'd get these unspooled speeches, and people would say things that would be far more outrageous. It was a more fun, event to kind of look in on than like a staid event like the Oscars. Well, who knew? I mean, with the exception of Will Smith going off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. All right, this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call. It's 888-TAX-DEAL. You can find him online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What up, everybody? It is hour 2. Excited to be here on this Tuesday and really excited about this. We left KGO, and, you always wonder, well, will certain people that you really were so excited to have on the show, authorities on everything from the law to government to et cetera, will they follow us to whatever our next project is? And this guy is the Pulitzer Prize winner. I talk about him all the time. He's a 4-time best-selling author. He knows Trump inside and out, but he also knows government and tax law and all of these things that relate to every manner of misdeed on the part of public officials. His journalism is really unparalleled, I think. And so it's with great excitement that I welcome him back. David Cay Johnston, everybody.
Hello, Mark.
Hi, David. It's so cool to have you on. Yeah, great and you took this hiatus you had talked about with your wife, I think, because she hadn't had any time away for a long time.
Well, my wife retired from her position leading the community foundation in Rochester. They had a dinner in her honor. 600 people turned out. And I kid my wife that if she dies soon, I'll have to rent out either Hochstein Hall, where Frederick Douglass's funeral was held, or Eastman Theater, which has 4,000 seats. But if she lives to 90, we'd probably hold it in the living room. But
you outlive the supporters.
We get her out of working all the time. We went on a 6-week vacation overseas, and it got her to stop working. So it worked perfectly.
Yeah, I know that was a big thing for both of you to unplug that way. By the way, how is it overseas? What were your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, if you want to travel, this is a great time to do it because the U.S. dollar is very high. When we were in New Zealand, we got, I think it was worth $1.80. So prices were, a little more than half. Australia was about $1.60. So that's a 1/3 discount and 2/3 discount. And made the trip not nearly as expensive as it would have been if there was parity.
Sure.
So this is a really good time if you've got the money and the time to travel overseas, even to Canada, where a dollar is worth about $1.30.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't traveled since parity. So I got to get on a plane and go. Yeah, it's, sometimes the higher end places, they adjust for it, don't they, David? But most of the stuff that you'll deal with, they haven't adjusted.
Air New Zealand will fly you in coach to Auckland, which is only 2 times, it's the same time zone as Hawaii. They'll fly you there for, I think, round trip $1,273 from LA and about the same from San Francisco. So it's astonishing how cheaply right now you can travel.
Yeah. So this brings us to some of the work you've been doing at DC Report since you got back. DCReport.org is David's site. And they cover all kinds of things. And there are other journalists besides David on the site. But one of the things that David does, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you've been doing this for 25 years, I think, just you've been looking at what Americans make, what we all make, and what the stratification of those earnings, how it's spread out. I wonder if you could speak to that. This is a 3-part series you did.
Well, and there's a 4th piece that will be out in a couple of days. Every year, the Social Security Administration, which is the source of the data on wages and salaries, those W-2 forms that you get, they publish a highly detailed report on who made how much. And to my absolute astonishment, Mark, I'm the only person in America who every year analyzes this data. And it's astonishing what I found, and I don't understand the former papers I worked for, the New York Times, the LA Times, places like that, ignoring this stuff, but they do, probably because it's not announced by some government official. Let me go back to 2020, the first year of the pandemic. Of all the pay raises in America, 82% went to people who were already making $1 million a year or more. And that was only 1 in 900 workers. That meant that 167 million other workers got to divvy up only 18% of the pay raises. Their average pay raise, by the way, was 50 cents a week, $26 for the year. That was the median, not the average, the median. Half got more, half got less. And of course, a lot of people got nothing. So now we have the data for 2021. And the $1 million and up crowd only got 30% of all the pay raises in America. The people who worked full time means they make at least $15,000, up to $250,000, which takes you to 97.2% of workers. Those folks got an average raise of $1,600 for the year. How much did the $1 million and up crowd get? Their average raise was over $800,000. So if you got a raise last year, each dollar you got, the $1 million up club got $500. And please don't be cynical about this, folks. This is not the way things used to be. This is the result, however, of government policies that hold down unions, that take away any opportunity for workers to bargain, and that reward redistribution of the fruits of our economy upward. It doesn't have to be this way. $1 to $500 is by no means the norm. And I know this because I've been doing this analysis every year for more than 25 years. And no one, including people who were very critical of my work, mostly because they just don't want these things reported, has ever shown any error in the hundreds of pieces I've written about this. Now, there's a little piece of good news in this. Well, let me give you one more piece of bad news, Mark.
Okay.
The 237,000 workers, mostly executives or self-employed people who made more than $1 million, their combined income was greater than the bottom 60 million workers in America. 60 million workers on one side of the equation made less money than less than $250,000 on the other side. The good news is that the number of people making $15,000 or less, which means they're part-time workers, because if you work full-time at the federal minimum wage, every week of the year, you'd make $80. The number of under $15,000 workers as a share is finally shrinking. It's down to 1 in 4 workers make less than $15,000. A lot of these are part-timers, retirees, college students, but nonetheless, as a share, they've shrunk. And if they keep shrinking at the rate they have been for the last 30 years, in about the year 2166, no one will make less than $15,000 in today's money. So it's very slow progress, but we are beginning to see some shrinkage. And the reason we're seeing that shrinkage is state and local governments putting in higher minimum wages. Where I live in upstate Western New York, in Rochester, the minimum wage will go to $14.30 an hour on January 1st. But if you drive around to retail outlets or fast food joints, they all have signs up offering work at $15 to $17 an hour. So the street minimum wage has now surpassed the legal minimum wage.
And it's interesting because just on the minimum wage thing, you talk about Rochester, for example. That's not a big city. No. You know, the feds and the argument at the federal level, why isn't there a stronger minimum wage, or meaning a higher minimum wage at the federal level? Why can't we punch it through? It's something that's always run on. Democrats always talk about it, but we can't get it passed. As well, you know, these minimum wages, you know, for, let's say, bigger cities, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, they're just not going to be, it's too big a burden for employers in smaller places. Well, Rochester is not a huge city. I mean, it's a medium-sized city. It's an example of a place, I think, where they realize to be competitive, they've got to raise that minimum wage.
Right. And the reality is that government sets standards. You can't build just anything and call it a car. You have to meet safety standards, lots of them. Food sellers, whether they're canned beans or a restaurant, have to meet standards. So it's not unreasonable to have a standard for what you pay people. And if you're a small business that says, I'll go out of business if I have to pay people a minimally living wage. Well, maybe you should go out of business. There are Republican members of Congress who have literally argued that you should be allowed to work for free, which is what a lot of interns do. That's a loophole. But standards matter. And not having a decent minimum wage has another effect. It increases our welfare costs. There's been some very good studies in the last 20 years that I've written about showing that, for example, the average Walmart store in America was costing taxpayers a fortune in food stamp subsidies, healthcare subsidies to the workers. And who benefits from that? Well, the Walmart family. They just outsource the real costs. I call this economic pollution. If you're adding to the burdens of taxpayers because you're not paying workers enough, then what you're engaged in is economic pollution. And employers learn how to deal with this. One of my sons is the manager of a big box, or was of a big box national retail chain. He was the top manager. And he told me that when I wanted to go down and have breakfast with him where he lived in another state one day, he said, "Oh, you can't come to breakfast that morning, Dad." And I went, "Why?" He said, "Well, there's me and 3 other guys who manage stores, and we get together for breakfast at the Waffle House every other Wednesday. And we work out the work schedules of our employees because they need 40 hours a week to survive. And we're only allowed, each of our companies, to give them 19 hours a week. And we know that Mary has to take her kid to the doctor Wednesday morning, and Sam coaches Little League or whatever." Now, what they were doing is arguably illegal, but it was for the benefit of their workers. But think about that. What if you don't have bosses who are as thoughtful as those 4 guys?
Sure. I mean, what I see in your pieces is this flow of money to the top and the elimination of a middle class, the continued weight of the middle class that's borne essentially by wages just not growing at the levels that they're growing at the highest levels of the economy.
Right. And so at the top, we've seen this tremendous growth of $1 million and up and $10 million and up paychecks. You know, if you're an executive, you're working long hours. You maybe get a fair amount of that to be playtime, going to golf course events that are set up by your company, but you're putting in a lot of hours. What is the possible utility of getting, as Jamie Dimon does at Chase Bank, $30 million a year? First of all, you can't spend that kind of money. I used to play a little game with people on the airplane, and because I flew so much, I got upgraded to first class all the time. And I would ask business executives and business owners, let's play a little game called Wretched Excess. How much money can you spend on your lifestyle? And the rules were you had to work 50 hours a week, but you had unlimited money. You could never run out of money. But we only counted consumption. So a lot of people would start off saying, well, I'm going to buy 6 mansions. And I'd say that's not consumption. The cost of running the houses is, but you're buying an asset. I'll buy an oil painting. That's not consumption. That's an asset. You're turning greenbacks into an oil painting. Very few people were able to spend more. Now, this was mostly in the beginning of this century, but very few people were able to spend more than $400,000 a year. Very few over $800,000 a year on consumption. And that's because they did things like order flowers on an Elton John level every day. My wife, who was a charity executive, was an obscene skinflint. Things she wouldn't put in for it. It was only $2 to park. I'm not going to charge for that. Things like that. She figured out how to spend $5 million because she got a conceit. She said, okay, I can't buy a jet, but I can pay to have a G5 to use whenever I want as a lease. And I went, yes. And she said, and I can hire, my favorite was, she said, well, I'm going to hire a woman to, and I'm going to buy a bespoke dress. I forget the word, haute couture dress every day. And I said, sweetheart, you have to stand there for hours to be fitted. And she went, no. I'm going to hire a woman whose figure matches mine and pay her to go to the fitting. And then she said, and you don't get to see her naked.
Rules are rules. Yeah.
But she figured out how to spend $5 million on consumption by doing absurd things, but nonetheless, they were within the sort of the rules of the game. So, you know,
leave it to you to marry someone.
In the 50s, we had a federal tax law that effectively limited your income to, in today's money, about $4 million a year, because anything above that, your tax was so high that it made no sense. And what happened back then? Well, employers kept putting more and more money into their business and hiring more workers instead of withdrawing capital. When you withdraw capital from a business to pay yourself, guess what? You're effectively reducing jobs, not in any individual case, but at a macro level.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, somebody asked a question and I interrupted.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, leave it to you to marry someone who really is an expert at spending money. I mean, that's good stuff.
Except she's not. She's very, very tight with a buck. I'm very pleased about that.
You're getting a lot of comments in the chat room about your sweatshirt. And
Yeah,
I have
Santa
to
Cruz,
say,
right?
you know, SoCal, I'm also an alumna, I should say, of SoCal High School. So well done.
Wow, I didn't know that about Kim.
Yeah, SoCal is down in Santa Cruz, and when I went there, it was barely a high school. Today, it has a swimming pool and a real gym and baseball diamond. You know, when we went there, they just threw up the buildings and said, "Go."
You know,
SoCal
night. You are getting a lot of reaction to it. It's cool. A lot of Santa Cruz folks looking in. So, David, when we look at this effect of everything, and again, this is a 3-part series. A 4th part is going to drop at dcreport.org. This series on the pay in America and these divisions and the evolution of the upper class, the elite. I'm going to call them ruling class, versus everybody else, essentially. What is the effect? Speak to the effect on the economy, the effect on life in America.
Well, the wealthy class, the ruling class, as you call them, the ownership class, as I tend to call them, would actually be better off if they weren't so stingy. What's holding back our economy is that many people, apart from the tenuousness of employment, anybody, as you know better than anybody else, Mark, can just suddenly in the middle of their workday lose their job. The amount of goods and services people can buy is limited by their incomes. And if incomes aren't growing, then you're not building the economy. So what we've created is what I call an economy of extraction. Those at the top are mining the rest of us to further gather for themselves more money than they can possibly ever consume or use in any useful way. I mean, after all, once you've got enough money to have your own jet and a yacht, what is there left? And that doesn't take billions and tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. That takes maybe $100 to $300 million, depending on your circumstances. So as a result, people aren't buying the things they might otherwise buy. We have an enormous increase of people eating junk foods and other subsidized foods. The government doesn't subsidize strawberries and apples and celery. It subsidizes salt, grease, or fat, and meat. And as a result, we have health problems throughout our society that are very expensive to taxpayers. And you create a great deal of cynicism and distrust. Now, I wrote 3 books early in this century: Perfectly Legal on Taxes, Free Lunch on Subsidies, The Fine Print on Restraint of Trade. And I very carefully wrote them so anybody with a high school education could understand how the government had to put in place these policies, most of which nobody knew about till I wrote about them, and that subtly reach into your pocket and take money out of it and force it over to someone who's very wealthy. And my favorite example is the oil and gas pipeline industry. I wrote that they take 3 pennies a day out of your pocket. Congress did a big study, this thick, and showed that, no, it's 2 cents a day. Okay, 2 cents a day, 3 cents a day. Nobody's going to go protest the 3 penny a day ripoff. And yet, if everybody in America has to give you a penny a day, at the end of the year, you'll have over $1 billion. Well, replicate that now with 100 other policies that take a penny here and a dime there and a quarter there every day. And pretty soon, a narrow group of people are very rich and you're not. And these are government rules. This isn't a market economy. We have corporate socialism. And people who are socialists object to my calling it corporate socialism. They want to call it corporate welfare. Giving money away to companies is corporate welfare. Taking away the risk of being in business and having taxpayers put up the money for corporations to invest. as General Electric did when 92% of the money it spent to modernize its Ohio jet engine factory came from tax dollars. When I've shown that there are companies that some years get more money from the taxpayers than they do in profits. So they're really money-losing operations subsidized by the taxpayers. And people don't understand this. And one of the reasons, by the way, is this new research that came out. I think we talked about it in the show when you were still in KGO, that more than half of Americans read at 6th grade level or less. So, of course, they don't understand what's happening. And if they watch places like Fox News, they have no idea at all about what's happening in our economy. So
well, even the mainstream media, David. I mean, even at the NBC, ABC, CBSs of the world, you don't see a lot of the kind of detailed explanation as to what's happening on the part of the mainstream media. And frankly, I mean, I don't mean to be too cynical, but they're bought and paid for also. I mean, they have advertisers and
I no news organization I ever worked in did an advertiser have any influence. In fact, when I was at the Detroit Free Press, a reporter wrote a story that caused the second biggest advertiser to stop advertising in the paper. He was greeted by standing applause when he arrived in the newsroom at work. But what does happen is a reliance on official sources and not doing your own work. Most journalists are innumerate. They're very literate. They're incredibly literate, but they're innumerate and they don't do their own numbers. When I was at the New York Times, my editor at the time, who had an MBA, came by my desk and he said, "What are you doing with all these spreadsheets?" And I said, "I'm calculating numbers about pay." And he said, "Why don't you just go to one of the accounting firms? They'll do it for you." And I said, "Well, 2 reasons. Number one, I don't think that's ethical. But number two, I wouldn't understand the numbers. I have to do the numbers myself to understand them." And, he thought I was just wasting time, even though I was a very productive reporter with lots of stories. But most journalists don't act on their own instincts. They accurately tell you what their sources told them. And if your sources are all the official sources and the official critics of the official sources, then you're not getting a real picture of what's happening out there.
Yeah, you make a really good enumerate. They're saying in the chat room is a ding word. It's true. The deal is that there's also a volume of work you have to produce now as a journalist that precludes a lot of the kind of deep dive stuff that you do, in addition to whatever limitations you might have in terms of understanding the density of the material. In our last couple of minutes, David Cay Johnston, I want to ask you, because I'm seeing this in the chat as well. Okay, this is depressing. This is overwhelming. We understand it. What can be done? It seems to me that we are dealing with governments and a culture that sort of has demonized regulation. I view regulation as oftentimes protections. These aren't, consumer regulations are consumer protections. Environmental regulations are environmental protections. So I don't view regulations with the kind of radioactivity about the word that many others do. But what can be done reasonably, David, to address some of these problems with the system that you've identified?
So point one, there is no such thing as deregulation. There's only new regulation. I used to teach the regulation of the ancient world. Everything is regulated and always has been. Baseball regulates how many stitches are on the baseball, what color the yarn is. The new regulation has tended to be pro-business and anti-consumer. What I think we may be seeing in the Biden administration, where we have the first president since Lyndon Baines Johnson who really understands how Washington works, is the slow end of Reaganism and these policies of favoring the wealthy and favoring the ownership class against workers. And to really change that, we need to elect politicians who will support having unions. Most of our economic competitors are unionized. The US government imposed unions on all of Japan. And who did it? Why, that notorious lefty General Douglas MacArthur. And I'm laughing because he was a very, very right-wing guy, because he thought it was good for the society. The Germans are unionized. So we need to have unions because that's the only way most people can bargain to get properly paid. Pope Francis says there is no economic justice without unions.
Well, then just to digress for a moment, David, you had to be a bit downcast about the fact that the government put its thumb on the scale and didn't really permit the striking rail workers, or were you of divided mind on that?
Well, Vox has a very good piece about how to the rail workers, the time off was not so much the issue as a lot of other work rules. Generally, employers don't object to wages with union contract. It's work rules. The LA Times, when I worked there, paid well above anybody else in town for every job, a janitor, telephone operator, especially journalist, to keep unions out back in the day, no longer there. But the work rules are what companies worry about, because those cost them money in ways that aren't quite so obvious. But
okay, so anyway, back to the, go ahead, back to it. I didn't mean to take you off on that.
The other thing we need to do is we need to develop everyone as a capitalist. I'm a firm believer that if everybody got part of their pay in equity, whether it's their own company or mutual funds that they can't touch until they're retired, that we would see the world differently. We'd be more in favor of investment, which is essential to creating jobs. And the big shift going on right now is Biden is trying to get us to stop being the country that outsources production of things to China and Vietnam, and to bring it back home. That's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to improve our exports and is a net benefit. And we should really be in favor of reshoring of all the jobs we can. We also need to recognize that manufacturing takes less and less and less human labor input. To create a ton of steel, when steel was invented by the East Indians 3,500 years ago, took years and years and years. Now it takes 40 minutes of labor. But nonetheless, high-tech manufacturing, Mark, there's a real future in that, and we need to move it back into the U.S. and be exporting that. And we can do that even with our higher labor costs.
On the issue of executive salaries, David, which you detail so beautifully, but it's really a severe situation. Is there anything that can be done specifically to address that? Is there any, it seems as though like that, this government we've created is just frankly controlled by many of the same executives to which you refer.
Well, the number one thing we could do is to stop this back scratching business where CEOs promote higher pay for the CEOs of companies they're on the board of, which they then benefit from.
I see.
And if we can, there have been some mechanisms proposed. They're too complicated to go into now, but we need to change the way we compensate CEOs. There is a market. You got to pay for the market. People get upset. College president makes $1 million a year. Well, if you're running a $4 billion a year operation, I'm not sure $1 million a year is particularly outrageous. But there's no reason that we should be paying, as some executives have been doing for years, $100 million a year. We had over 600 people, I report in the series, who made more than $50 million in salary. And there's no need for that. There's no utility for it. And the best way to slow it down is to put a very high marginal tax rate. The top marginal tax rate cuts in at about $500,000, which is roughly the threshold of the 1%. And we should have higher rates at 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 100 million to discourage this inefficient activity.
So that would take congressional maneuvers that are right now a little out of reach, given the count.
We get the government we choose. We chose it.
Yeah, well, it's all, it's all in the we, right? Which we is choosing. That's for another time. Look, it's great to have you here. I encourage everybody to get to dcreport.org. Read these reports. They're really fascinating. And it just opens the hood on American economy and wages. And of course, you know what a fan of David's books I am. So please pick those up along the way as well. David, so excited that you join us. Thank you. All right. Rock on Santa Cruz. Yeah, we'll see you next week. David Cay Johnston, everybody. How great is that? Really, really cool.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I've got another David coming up. I've got David Katz coming up, the former assistant U.S. attorney. He will take us into the referral, the criminal referral of the J6 committee. We'll talk about that and the additional legal exposure of the Trump group. And by that, I mean Trump's business, which that case has now gone to a jury. That is
who is having that conversation?
Who is having that conversation?
Who is having that conversation?
We do have the full crew for you. That is John, of course, Kim, Tony. The whole group is here. Smash the like button like a boss, and we'll give you some shout-outs today. As if you're new, I'll just tell you in 15 seconds or less, having some hiccups with YouTube. Right now, everything's going to be fine. But if you want to make a contribution, support the show, go to themarkthompsonshow.com. There you can do a PayPal number, and it's easy if you make a contribution that way. Tuesday is David's Day, Katz and Johnston. Friday, Michael's Day, Shore and Snyder. Well broken down, Nate Wilson. Nice job. All right, we'll get into David Katz next as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Democrats and Republicans need to work together to pass a spending bill. That, according to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. He said the spending package is critical for the military and the preservation of national security. Republicans, though, urging their party members not to work with Democrats on passing such a bill. So we'll see how that shakes out. Criminal referrals in connection with last year's attack on the Capitol will be made to the Justice Department. That, according to the chairman of the January 6th committee, Benny Thompson. He wouldn't reveal specifics to reporters as the panel is under pressure to finish its work before the end of the year. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, threatening to remove all news content on its U.S. platforms if Congress goes ahead with a proposal that would allow publications to get paid from them. The legislation would let news outlets bargain with tech companies distributing content like Meta and Google. A Meta spokesperson claims the proposal would end up creating a cartel-like entity. A vote on California's price gouging penalty is expected next month. Governor Gavin Newsom wants to penalize oil companies for soaring gas prices. He told yesterday's special legislative session they're taking advantage because they think they can, and they were now going to say it's enough. He claims oil companies took in $63 billion in profits in just 90 days. The governor would decide the cap on profits and the fine. Here it goes for Bill Cosby again. He's being accused of raping and drugging several women in a new lawsuit. TMZ reporting the plaintiffs claim Cosby took advantage of them and posed as their mentor as they tried to break into Hollywood. A spokesman for Cosby says the actor denies the allegations and will be cleared of any wrongdoing. 'Twas a run-by egging. A man is under arrest for allegedly throwing an egg at King Charles. No, it's the second time the king has been egged. The latest egging suspect currently in custody to be questioned. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, Steve's your guy. He's at 888 Tax Deal or online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the Mark Thompson Show News Network.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
What up, everybody? What up, what up, what up? Very excited that everybody could be here, and I'm muy excited that Lori North took a few moments to make a contribution the extra way that you have to do it today, which is through PayPal on our website, themarkthompsonshow.com. You go to PayPal, so the normal YouTube methods are not available. So for that reason, Lori, I first want to give you a Big Dan Ashley shout out. And then I want to tell you something between us girls. I'm not gonna, but I am.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
Close. I'm close.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
Because I know it's not easy to make the contribution to go to themarkthompsonshow.com, go to PayPal, and you did it, Lori. And
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
For that reason, I'm gonna just tell you I'm close. Thank you. You want to support the show? Visit themarkthompsonshow.com. Click to contribute. You can become a Patreon member. We run all the Patreon names at the end of the show, or you can become a one-time donor, which is what Lori did through PayPal. So appreciate everybody's really stepped up. We've got this YouTube thing. We'll iron it out. And in the meantime, speaking of iron.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Take that iron rod, smash me, give me a thumbs up. You know what I'm saying? All right. What is our situation with David Katz?
What we have going on here is a situation.
We have a situation. Was David able to?
What he's got going here is a situation.
He had made it yesterday. I'm sorry, last week without any problem.
Yeah, I think we were lulled into a sense of.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Well, that is poor David. Tony, did you try to help him?
Nothing yet. Monitor speaker. Monitor speaker.
I see why.
We need the Katz song.
My monitor speaker's not on. My monitor speaker's not on.
I'm hearing echo. Okay, this must be me. Okay, have him call me if you need to.
All right. By the way, do you stand corrected on the monitor speaker?
I'm hearing. I guess, but I'm hearing an echo, so I thought it was you, but it's probably
okay.
me.
I'm hearing an echo too, but I've been hearing an echo for about 12 years now. I think that's just like come on, he's in the green room now. Those of you who doubted, in your face.
Look at that.
David Katz, everybody. Come on, David Katz. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney, David Katz. Can you hear us, David? Probably not, but yeah, we can see him.
Great to be with you.
Oh, he can hear us, and now we are hearing something. That's all right. You know, this reminds me of those early moon missions. You know, all the the communications are a bit tortured, but you really wanted it to be something that
it's nice to see where the real work happens. You know, I mean, we're in the thick of it with him right now.
We offered the phone call option with Tony. Tony is the guy who can facilitate that, but I think it's cool if we can actually make this happen to have him on. David, can you hear me?
I'll give him a call.
Okay. Yeah, you're in and out.
Yeah, he's kind of like doing the robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to look through a couple of. I hear what he's saying about an echo a little bit, but I don't have anything on here, so I don't know what that is, Tony. Sorry about that.
Go back to a text to see if I can find it, but there was a text from a viewer who was talking about something that happened where there was some type of meeting where I guess today where there's video of people refusing to shake hands with McConnell and McCarthy today, where they honored the defenders of January 6th. So I guess, according to West, there were 3 people that just walked right by McConnell and McCarthy. They had their hands out, but the people refused to shake their hands. He called it hilarious. I think what an awkward moment. You know?
So let me just understand something. So who is defending who are the defenders of January 6th? Who is honoring the defenders of January 6th? You're saying defending the Coosters, defending the insurrectionists?
No, I think the defenders of January 6th, the people who fought back against it. Right.
Oh, okay.
So
you're talking about the police officers?
Probably Capitol Police.
Oh, okay. Then I understand that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize they were honoring them. Yeah. Okay. So then I get it. So there were people refusing to shake hands. Oh, so those people. God, I think I understand this now. I mean, they do this to me all the time, John. Why can't
they do this to me all the time? I don't know what the hell they do it
in
for.
The comment, I appreciate it, but it wasn't clear to me what. Yeah. So what you're saying is McConnell has his hand out. 3 people walk by, not even looking at him.
He's being snubbed.
I see, because they were putting their lives on the line to defend that, and then he and his party don't even have the balls to step up and to condemn those who were attacking the Capitol. I see. Yeah. I didn't see that. I'm glad we slugged through the explanation.
Well,
I didn't see. Yeah.
You know.
No. I'm glad you mentioned it. I haven't seen it. I want to see the video.
Either. Yeah, me too.
Maybe we can rally the video for you. We have David Katz, though, I think, on the line, on the phone. One more time for David Katz, everybody.
Yay.
David, thank you for being here. I know it can be a little bit of I know the old station, it was just, hey, we just pick up the phone and we do a call. And this is.
Well, I have this really fancy set, Mark, and I have my earbuds, and I have for your listeners, I have a red, white, and blue tie on, and I'm sitting in front of a panoramic view of Beverly Hills, and you can't see any of it. I'm so sorry.
No, it's really it is too bad. But well, for the next time, we know the deal. You're going to ride the levels, Tony, or you'll be able to, or John, you'll. Okay, thank you. So David Katz, you are really so well positioned to comment on what's happening. The January 6th, this is breaking news of sorts, right? The January 6th committee is making criminal referrals to the Justice Department. We don't know what those are, but I wonder if you can just speculate or at least weigh in on what that means, what might happen on a couple of scenarios from here.
Sure. Then I hope we'll get to the 303 Colorado case that was argued in the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday, because it's really a fascinating one, and I think it has some potentially major implications. But regarding today's referrals from the January 6th committee, it's obviously significant. And I think that the two views of it, one is they've investigated this for 18 months. They had whatever it was, 8 or 9 hearings that they presented a lot of evidence. Beyond that, they've interviewed literally hundreds of witnesses. They've gone through thousands of pages of documents. And of course, they point to the criminal guilt of several people. And while the committee doesn't have the power to indict anybody, it would seem odd that they would get done with something that important and not make suggestions, not make referrals of who they think is criminally involved. They're only advisory, Mark. They're only suggestions. The committee has no power to indict anybody. For the people who fail to show up, they could refer them for contempt. But that's about the only power they have from a criminal point of view. Even there, the Department of Justice had to decide, remember, whether to indict the people or not. They indicted 2 of them, like Bannon. The Department of Justice and Merrick Garland didn't indict 2 of them. For instance, the Meadows, the former and last chief of staff for Trump. So here, the other side of the argument is that it somehow politicizes it, that it will arrive as a congressional hit list of who the Democrats and the supposedly 2 turncoat Republicans thought ought to be indicted, and that Trump will play it up as, oh, it's a political hit job. It's just his political enemies who, of course, would like to see him indicted. But I think the latter view is not the compelling one. I agree with the committee saying, look, we've had this big investigation. We've received all of this evidence. It points to the criminal guilt of several people, and we're going to say who they are. It'll be fascinating. Is one of them that former Secret Service chief who went on to be deputy chief of staff under Meadows? Remember, Hutchinson had a lot to say. Miss Hutchinson had a lot to say about him and what he had to say and what his role was. Was it people like Giuliani? Was it people like some of the others? And of course, the $64 million question, was it Trump? Are they going to recommend that Trump ought to be indicted? I certainly think the evidence was there. I think any sensible person who listened to it with an open mind thought the evidence was there of inciting the riot, not tamping down the insurrection, the invasion, the marauding of the Capitol, even though it went on for over 3 hours, sending out the tweet that Trump did saying, Pence, the vice president, was very disloyal. He didn't do what he should have done. And then you remember, it's right after that the insurrection gets even worse. It's right after that tweet that people say, oh, well, the president wants us to hang Pence. So I think that the evidence against Trump of violent incitation, I think is absolutely there. I think there's also evidence that he was behind the fraud. Remember, he called up Georgia and he said, find me another 11,000 votes, meaning concoct 11,000 votes that weren't cast, but say they were, and swing the election in Georgia to me. There were things that he did with the slates. There were things that he did with arm twisting. Some of the state officials, some of the Republicans who actually stood up to him, and some of the Republicans who our profiles encourage. But there are also other Republicans who knuckled under. to the autocratic impulses of Trump. So I think absolutely they should make a criminal referral, which includes that Trump ought to be indicted and say so. But we'll see what happens. We really don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Trump element is, that's the toughest, I would think, from a legal standpoint. I mean, you're finding a jury that, that hasn't heard enough, that it isn't predisposed to a conclusion, et cetera. But anyway, I wanted you to comment on it. It just did happen. So, the thing that I wanted to really get into, I mean, originally before this referral came down, right off the hop, was this Supreme Court case. I mean, this is not the first kind of this case that we've seen. In other words, I'm thinking of the wedding cake maker, this sort of anti-gay. So this is a Colorado case in which the web designer feels that, designing a website for same-sex weddings goes against her religious faith. Essentially, that's it. And this case has been appealed all the way to the Supreme Court. Go ahead, David.
Well, she actually is left arguing that it violates her First Amendment right to express what her opinion is because they didn't accept the case based on religious grounds.
I see. Okay.
So she's left with this First Amendment, but not freedom of religion or exercise, but this freedom of speech argument that she's making.
Why, David? Then why, David, did they mention in arguments and oral arguments? I heard there was a mention of religion.
Well, in part because the other case is a precedent, and her First Amendment views are tied up with also her religious views. But what's interesting, and you're absolutely right, that 5 years ago, just about exactly, this case of the cake maker came up. The U.S. Supreme Court, Mark, was very differently composed at that time. It had Anthony Kennedy on the 9, and it also had RBG on there. They sort of punted on that case. What they said was that the cake maker had been treated unfairly by the Civil Rights Commission in Colorado, and they sent it back so he could have a fair hearing as to his religious exercise and how that impacted on him making cakes. But everybody knew that they were going to have to address the issue that they punted on. This seems to be the case where they're addressing it. It seems, unfortunately, in my view, that there are 5 votes for sure and maybe 6 votes to actually validate that she has a First Amendment right because she's a creative person. And in that sense, it's a much better case as a test case for what I consider the radical right on the U.S. Supreme Court than the cake maker. It's easier to see how a web designer is really exerting creative energy more than a cake maker. You can say the cake maker was like a painter, but I think it's just cleaner that she has this web design. Now, what's interesting about the case is, of course, the moderates and liberals on the Supreme Court said yesterday during the argument, this is a slippery slope, and you cannot stop this slippery slope. The next person's going to say they have a First Amendment right, that they don't want to participate in an interracial marriage, not just a same-sex marriage. It becomes an interracial marriage. Before you know it, we have Jim Crow again. We have public accommodations laws that people do not want to abide by, the integration in public accommodations. This is like they don't want to integrate, people who are having a same-sex marriage. How about people who don't want to integrate people going into a lunch counter who are black and white? Aren't we on that slippery slope? And of course, Alito and the others act like, no, we're not on that slippery slope, which means that this right to marry, these rights that gay people have since Obergefell, are second-class rights. In other words, the idea is that there'll be some level of scrutiny for cases that involve discrimination against interracial couples or against Jews or Muslims or against you name it. That will be different from the rights that people have in having a gay marriage, Mark. And there'll be second-class rights. In other words, people like this lady will say, my creative energies, I don't have to use them in service of a gay marriage, or gay people doing something that straight people could do that I would creatively do for them, but I won't do it for gay people. And so there'll be second-class rights. They'll be subjected to a lesser level of scrutiny. They'll say there's a compelling need for everybody to abide by the public accommodations laws and to not discriminate against people on account of religion or ethnicity, but not when it comes to gay marriage. So that is very, very troubling. Colorado argued, Mark, that these are people who expose themselves to public, to public consumption of their services. They use the example in some of the briefs of Leibowitz, the famous photographer, who only photographs certain people. And she can go on just photographing certain people. She's probably not even online. But all of the people who engage in normal commercial activities are covered by this Colorado law. And, Colorado argues, look, if you want to be a word of mouth person only, if you want to be an exclusive photographer like Leibowitz, you can keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to be open to the public, then you have to serve the public. If you want the benefits of being open to the public, you cannot go around and say, I will not exert my creative energies for a gay marriage. You have to do it as to all marriages and as to all people. And what they also say there is that when it comes to the gay marriages and everything else, they say, well, look, you should be allowed to put up a sign that says, I will not participate in a gay marriage. Now, who wants to look online or for services or in equivalence of the yellow pages and have all kinds of notices which say, I will not write speeches for gay people. I will not give my services to Jews. I will not service a Muslim. And that's exactly what this lady wanted to do. She wanted to put a notice online that said, I will create websites for heterosexual marriages, but not for gay marriages. And she knew that Colorado would not let her do that. So that's how her case became right. I saw some commentators on a liberal show who said, this is all a farce. It's not even right. Why did this activist right-wing Supreme Court even take the case when she's never even had a website? She's never excluded anybody. I don't buy that argument against the decision that it's not right, because everyone agreed in the lower courts that she would have been, they would have gone against her if she had tried to put up the notice that she wanted to put up. Now, during the argument, Alito said something interesting to her. He said, well, so you could just put a sign up on there that said, you could put a sign up there that said, Made with Love by Lori, that's her name. Site Made with Love by Lori, who believes that marriage should only be between a man and a woman. That to me is unbelievable. I mean, it just seems to me, I agree with Sotomayor and the other moderates and liberal three on the Supreme Court. The next one could say, with love from Dave, I believe that marriage is only between two people of the same religion. Or I believe marriage should only be between two people of the same race.
Sure.
So to me, Mark, they're not dealing with this issue at all. And I think that people who are contemplating gay marriage, people who are concerned about, gay rights, which are a lot more than just gay people, should be very troubled about this decision, because it's going to go Lori's way. She's going to be able, based on her First Amendment right and her supposed issues, she's going to be forced to speak in favor of gay marriage, which she doesn't want to be forced to speak in favor of. And either that's going to just wipe out our public accommodations laws, which they seem confident that it won't, or gay rights, gay equality is going to be a second-rate equality. It's going to be a second-rate
right, as you've said. Right.
It's not subjected to the same scrutiny, Mark, that religious discrimination is, racial discrimination is, and it seems like a step back from overthrow.
It's absolutely a step back. The case, we got to wrap up, but next spring or early summer, the case will be decided. And as you say, with conservative holding 6 seats, it's likely to pass. I've got to wrap up, David. Appreciate your takes on this. I look forward to next week. In fact, John, we're going to try to maybe get David on a Thursday too, right? So we have a little more time.
We'll have to ask David about his schedule. He's a very busy man.
Yeah, you are busy, sir. We're going to ask you. We'll try to get it. It'll just give us a little more time to talk. But thank you, David Katz. Love having you on. Appreciate you so much. Thank you, sir.
Great to be with your audience. This Thursday will be rough, but next Thursday works.
That's when we'll do it. Yeah, a week from Thursday. Great. David Katz, everybody. Yeah, producing on the air, I asked him.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy, sorry to make you wait, Steve. Kind of big stuff going on at the Supreme Court. Steve Moskowitz, everyone. Yeah. I was just thinking about that business that we talked about last hour. it's a bar business that has discovered you. So they're going to reach out to you.
I'm looking forward to hearing from them.
Yeah. And ERC. I was thinking about ERC only because it's. I just think it's a loot that's still there. We pay into this government. I've said it before, and why shouldn't we benefit from monies that are available to us? I mean, the crew around the last administration, they all got money. They all got all kinds of relief money. They had an inside track. The money is available with the right guy looking into it, and that guy is you, Steve Moskowitz.
That's right, because we're looking out for the clients and we're not looking for the easy way. And that's one of the things with the ERC. There's an easy way to get it, which is if your gross revenue drops a certain amount. And we start there too. But a lot of people are entitled to ERC. The revenue didn't drop. Well, how could that be? There's a facts and circumstances test. And we'll take the time and the effort. And we're really serious about that. And sometimes we have to meet with clients 2 and 3 times. That's okay. We're not like some of the other shops that are mass producing a quick in and out. We care about getting everything to which you're legally entitled. If we have to do more work, that's fine. We don't care. The only thing we care about is getting you everything to which you're legally entitled. So if you're hearing about ERC for the first time, by all means, contact us. But if you were turned away by somebody else who said your gross revenue didn't go down, you might still qualify under the facts and circumstances test. Contact us. We'll go over it. And if you don't, not everybody does. If you don't, we'll tell you why. But if you do, let's not leave that money on the table, which a lot of people have.
Here's a question from the audience just a moment ago. Steve, I love when we ask him these questions. We ask Steve these questions. He has no idea ahead of time. So here's another one. From Walnut Creek Adult Softball. Steve, do nonprofits qualify for ERC, a 401c4, for example?
I'm going to do something lawyers don't oftentimes do, a simple, direct, one-word answer. Yes.
Wow, yes. Come on, Walnut Creek Softball. You've got to call Steve Moskowitz. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also reach Steve online, MoskowitzLLP.com. You can see him right here on the Mark Thompson Show daily, offering advice and takes on any number of situations as well. But the best way to get your situation taken care of and dissected, if I can use the word, is by contacting him directly. That's why I give you the number, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, or MoskowitzLLP.com, MoskowitZ, MoskowitzLLP.com. They say, wow, on the, here it is. So the next call you need to make this afternoon is to Moskowitz, 888-TAX-DEAL. Steve, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll talk tomorrow. All right, Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Right on, right on, right on. Mm-hmm.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow. And what I want to give a lot of people shout-outs today. Tony landed 2 planes today for me.
Thanks, Tony.
We
did all right.
We had a whole hour before we went on the air of not being able to connect, and we didn't know what the problem was. And one computer was, and then
thanks, Tony.
It was really, really rough. So thank you, pal, for really stepping up. Tony's one of those guys. You want me to get in the car? I'll come up there right now.
Yeah.
But really, really cool. Kim was terrific.
How are you?
Kim put up with my raging at the Elon Musk Neuralink.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, that was
like
quite,
it when you rage.
It was. I do get angry at animals being used in labs. Do not like it.
The blood of the show was pumping.
Yeah, and then of course fabulous producer John Daly. Of
Kim,
course.
how are you?
No, fabulous producer
John
Daly. Coordinating a lot of stuff tonight. And
hurting
today.
cats, literally.
Yeah,
hurting
there
cats.
you go. That's hurting David Katz. So David Katz is able to do the Thursday, a week from Thursday. So we're going to move him to Thursday. I think just to give him more time, So look forward to that. Wow, are you kidding? Harry Magnan, $50 on, and that's through PayPal?
Yeah.
Wow. Harry, thank you so much. You go to themarkthompsonshow.com. You just can make a contribution through PayPal because our YouTube contributions are down for now. But Harry, first.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not gonna, but I'm not kidding. That $50 is my number. Thank you. Lori, there's Lori above the bar. $50.
I'm not gonna cry.
I'm close. close to crying.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
That is so generous of you, Lori. There it is, the Red Jack Saloon. Go in there and order the martini. Thank you for the shout out. And in the intro to Steve, we have a consultation Thursday. Also, this month's show cocktail, there it is, the martini, everybody. Hetchy vodka straight up with 3 olives, $7. The show gets $2. Go in and order a martini. They'll spin off a couple of bucks to the show. But I love that Red Jack Saloon is regular, and they live right above the bar. That's where Laura, and they have a cat. Who can't love that? So big
and much
shout
like
out.
Jim Avila, they have a flag.
And they have a flag. It's the patriotism that.
Thank you very much.
That's a Will Smith. Thank you very much. I'm going to give you a thank you. I'm going to give everybody who discovered us through PayPal, who went to themarkthompsonshow.com, because the YouTube stuff is down. All the YouTube contributions are down. If you went the extra distance to go to themarkthompsonshow.com, and then you made the contribution through PayPal, I want
thank you.
4 thank yous, all right? And I'm going to give you an extra 4.
Thank you.
So take that through the afternoon and evening hours. I want everybody to have a great day. We've had a really rough couple of days. So it's been quite the challenge. But
and now Donna. Don't forget Donna.
Well, Donna Hobbs. Come on, Donna Hobbs, with a big Dan Ashley shout out.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not going to cry, Donna, but you're getting me close. You really are. I just love what's happened here today. I think we've had a moment or two where we had real emotion in this show today. That's pretty terrific.
What did we learn today?
We learned that we're all together in this world, and it'll be nice if we kept that spirit going through the holidays and through the new year.
That's right.
That's right. The Nikki Maduro show is going down right now. Walker Warnock, Capitol Police snub Mitch McConnell. Oh wait, we have that video too. We'll let Nikki run it. I told John to scramble and get the video of the Capitol Police snubbing McConnell, and he did. And then of course I didn't ask him to run it. Sorry, John. And scientists research. I don't do the. All right, Burger King's 12 Days of Christmas is a great show. Go over to Nikki's show and watch. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Shoutout Stevens for the Mark Johnson Show.
All right.
Testify.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Out of time. Bye.